Life Check Yourself with Bernie Bryant. Dating with confidence. Bernie's journey to personal growth and self-awareness. Ladies, oh my gosh, these are my favorite episodes. Well, I say that about every episode, but I love it when I reach out to a client that I worked with in the past and I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And they're like, I'm doing great. And when I met them literally a year ago, I met my next guest, Bernie, and she was like, dating is hard. I've been saying I'm going to work on this for years. Nothing has changed. Help. And here we are a year later and things have definitely shifted. So I'm so honored and grateful that you are taking your personal time to kind of like pay it forward and share your story with ladies. So in the dating realm, when you reached out to me, I think it was like January at the beginning of 2024. What was going on for you? What was life like?
I was not dating at all. I'd been divorced for about 5 years and I was terrible at it, Bernie. I mean, I meet men all the time. I was good. I literally had zero clue on every other part of my life was set and easy. And I always knew how to kind of get what I want, manifest what I want. And I literally was like clueless in that department. And I had watched your podcast or listened to your podcast and followed you for a little while. So finally, it's like I figured out it was not the dating world per se. It was me. And I needed to correct that.
Yeah. I love that awareness. Here's, I think, what was really interesting about your story is that you never really had a hard time necessarily meeting people. It wasn't like you weren't getting asked out or you weren't going on dates. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what kind of guys were you meeting? What was the pattern? How was that kind of showing up?
Okay, well, I would meet nice men and I would go online and meet nice men. And then I would go on a date and I would not like anybody. And if I did like them, I would shut them down and run away. So, but I didn't realize I was doing that. It was all that fear was blocking. If the more I liked them, the scarier it was. And for sure, I'm going to shut down, check out and run.
Okay. And so what did shutting down look like for you? Did you just ghost them? Did you make up a thing about why they weren't the right guy? Like, what was your method?
Yes. And no matter, they would try to get together again or ask me out and I would just never either be available. So they would either give up in frustration. And the weird part is as I was doing it, I wasn't aware I was doing that. I was making up all these internal excuses. He did not ask me formally or he didn't, give enough notice. So I would pick apart any part of, their attempt to see me and then think, God, see, they're terrible.
So there's three really important things I want our listeners to listen to recognize this pattern is one, you don't know you're doing it. You think it's legitimate. Like there's always something wrong with how the guy is doing whatever, texting you, talking to you, asking you out. And that it is a safety or a defense mechanism that ends up pushing people away. And then finally, and you get to be right. Because what you said at the end, I think so many women are doing, right? It's that like, see, blah, 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 blah. This is why, blah, 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 blah. So once you started to realize that, how was it impacting your life? I mean, what were you thinking about? Was it like, maybe I should quit? Maybe it's not fun for me? Or like, did you have like that roller coaster kind of experience?
Oh, absolutely. And so I would go on the apps and then I'd get diluted with, requests and men and dating. And I'm like, who has time for all this? And even being on the apps, I mean, compared since I've taken your course, it's so different. But I would literally have like no words on my profile. I'd have one line. I would not even take the time to do that. I'd think, well, it's all picture based anyway. So I put no effort. I would just post some pictures and do a 1-line answer. I seriously had no clue. And I thought I was like, trying, but I really was not trying. I didn't know how to try. And, I really didn't have a clue, but I thought I was, because I'd go out there and get tons of likes and I'd have a lot of activity and I could go on dates, but then I wouldn't like anything. And so I was putting as much effort into the actual dates as I was into the profiles, which is like,
Right.
I see all that now after my course with you. It brought all this new awareness.
So I think that's really also super interesting. I've said this before, like it's almost like when you're really successful and you're busy and you're a good catch. It's almost like it's not cool to care. Right? Like we're too cool for school, I'm just gonna I'm not gonna try. It reminds me, it's so funny, when I was in high school and I was applying to college. This was back in the day when you had to type out on a typewriter, your college applications. And I remember handwriting them and kind of not caring. And I was saying to myself, well, if they don't like me the way that I am, I don't want to be with them. But it was sort of like I was protecting myself from failure. Like I didn't want to actually try and get disappointed. And I approached my college applications like that. And I think a lot of women approach dating that same way. Like, I don't really want to care because at the unconscious level, I don't want to get rejected or fail and have it hurt.
No, that's exactly right. But at the time, I didn't know I was doing that because I didn't have the tools and I did not know how. And so it's been such a long journey for me of just healing and everything to even take the step to, work with you.
Right. So so you were at the end of your rope. It was a brand new year. Was there one moment or something that happened that made you decide maybe I'm going to take this seriously and get help?
Yeah. Because I really liked somebody and once it scared me so bad that I'm like, oh, that was the best time. I was the most attracted to him than ever. And I literally blew him off. And he really liked me and write this beautiful thing and tried and then I got so scared. I remember just shaking. And I realized I did not have the tools to, know how to date, communicate, or even, express my desires. Or I was so fearful of that. And it's funny because I'm pretty much an extrovert and outgoing in the rest of my life. So that's why I thought, well, that can't be it. I'm good at going on the date. I'm good at going on the first date. I'm good at doing all those things. I'm fun. But then if it's any type of vulnerability or expression of what I was even feeling or even awareness of what I was feeling, I was just unable. And so I'd been following and listening to a lot of your stuff. So I need help.
That way. So, okay. So you started the program. What was the first breakthrough that you had, or the first thing that you really learned?
Well, first and foremost, your weekly meetings and making me speak up. Because I like to hide in the middle, hide in the crowd. Like I said, in the world, when it comes to that, and you would hold us very accountable and make us, the accountability and having to actually think, do, and express these things that I would not have ever done. And so that is huge, even though it's like a drip method of each week you're working on us also, consciously and unconsciously. And it's all coming out even afterwards. Now I realize how impactful those weekly meetings were because of all that. Even if it's just the smallest thing of speaking up and expressing something, even in the breakout group or with you, it was, before very scary for me to do that. So,
and I think that makes sense because I think so many women have so much shame around their failed relationship past, and they think they're the only one or there's something flawed. And I think being in that group, it's I joke it's part of my evil plan, because everything does work together. But the one thing is you have to sort of like reactivate and recreate new neural pathways around self-trust and trust of others. And so the way that we get that going is, you have to kind of start by trusting me a little bit. But then as you get into the group and you start being vulnerable with others, and then you share and you connect and you start to trust them, it's like you're turning on this part of your brain that says, oh, I am being who I am. And it actually is feeling good and creating connection, which gives you that confidence that now you can kind of take it outside our little bubble and start to turn it on. And I remember I'd like voluntold you, I call it. And you were like, and then at the end you were raising your hand. It was so great. I was so proud of you. And in terms of like, what it was like going through the process, because I know that every step of the way you were sort of like, why do I have to do it this way? Or how does this work? Or let's talk about the photos. Like, I like my photo. Everyone, and by the way, for all you listening, like literally everyone has the same sort of objections, concerns, resistance. So what were some of those points that you were like, noticed yourself having to get coached on that were new levels of breakthroughs as we went through?
Right. And I mean, like I said, all that resistance comes from years of thinking I knew what I was doing and not knowing what I didn't know. Okay. So you not only are, making us go outside ourselves and speak up and all think about what we actually want and desire. But of course. I mean, why do I need to be told how to dress and take photos? Because I can post my iPhone photos and get hundreds of likes and messages. They work, but they weren't working with the intentional way that it is working now. So I was resistant, like all that whole process. It's like, Marnie, I can get a lot of likes. I can get a lot of things. I can get a lot of messages. I can get dates, but they were different and I was different maybe. So it is all a process, and trusting to follow your process was also a huge lesson for me because, to swallow that pill that it's to figure out it could not be the rest of the world. So obviously I had to look inside a little bit and start correcting some things. And so,
That's funny. I was just on a guest on a podcast, and the title of the podcast, and this woman wrote a book, how to make sure your way doesn't get in the way or something like that. And I think that's really common. People come in this process and they're like, why is your way going to work? Like, what do you do that's so different?
Correct.
Like, I dress fine. My photos are fine. So one of the things that you said was, I didn't know what I didn't know. So that I was doing, let's not use the word wrong, but I wasn't optimizing. So if you think of like some of those things that you're like, oh gosh, like I was not dating intentionally. I was not doing this in an optimal way. What were some of those things that you realized?
I see now because, yes, I'm getting all the same likes and everything. It was pretty much every step of the way. And I mean, it started with me. I did not know that. Like you said, I'm like, well, what's wrong? I'm getting these likes and texts and messages and asked out anyway. And then, of course, I'm like, no. But again, that's all defensive and seeing that now. But I did have, besides not being vulnerable, it is completely different. Just the way you reworked my profile took 3 times for you to get to really express what I want. And I get so many compliments on it. That's huge. And Yay. The quality of men that changes everything. Them knowing what you want and stating what you want. So the conversations are completely different. And the way I'm responding is completely different, starting from the beginning via the first text, the first line, and the phone call, the date, whatever. So I truly, now as I'm doing it and still in process, I'm heavily dating and have a huge funnel, which is good because I mean, that has also given me the tools to look back with what I learned from you and see, oh my God, this all mattered. I was really clueless. I think, on that. And, it might have come off as unkind to these guys and not meaning it, but just not knowing how. Not knowing how to say, I'm not that in, it's not a match. I would just go. Just the everything. And I never felt good about that, of course, because then you're like, dating sucks. I either have to hurt somebody or be hurt. So it's from the very beginning through the whole thing.
That's really important because we lay out this foundation. Like we have to get rid of all the fear and teach you that psychological safety so that you can be vulnerable without over functioning, over giving. How do you set boundaries in a way that's loving? So there's that internal piece where you heal and you learn how to be strong and also open. And then we get clear on like, well, what are your values? What's your vision? And then translating that. And this is another really important thing is I know like on the first draft for you and everyone else of the profile, it's really written from like, here's what I don't want, like I don't want that and I don't want this. And it's a very much the energetic come from is like, listen here, like don't be an idiot. What was the biggest change for you between the first draft and the third draft?
Well, okay, so it's not that I came from a place of negative because I'm very open and I am positive. But again, the not knowing. Well, the first draft was like 3 sentences.
Right.
And you're like, is this it? And I'm like, well, yeah, I told you. I was used to posting one line or no.
Right. So your 5 sentences was like a
I really had to go deep. And so you kept making me dig deeper. And then I'm thinking, well, on some of these apps, you don't have that kind of space. But I get it. It all served a huge purpose. It does make a difference because you were drilling me down to speaking exactly what I want to call in. And I mean, I didn't even have that clarity. So that was a huge breakthrough with me. You take all that together and then it's, I'm ready world. Here I come. Not to say I'm an expert at this, at dating right now, but I'm a heck of a lot better. And at least I know what's going on. And I know how to be kinder to them, to myself, which matters. So then all the experiences have been great. It's calling in a whole different sort of person, quality men, much more quality available men.
I love that. Okay, we're going to get to that after in 1 second, but I want to ask you another thing about putting it all together and your photos. And one of the reasons we have our clients do photos in a certain way is a lot of things, but one of them is that they've gone through this process and they sort of release all this crap and they get excited from the profile writing because they're like, wait, I mean, this could be real. And then that photo shoot is almost like a celebration. In what ways did having those photos make this different for you in any way?
I would say the photos for me was probably, that was never an issue, even working with the stylist. I love that. And yes, I think that part, it mattered because maybe I was picking something that was conveying something different. It's like a mini dress in Vegas and I'm just looking like, woo, party girl. So, it is conveying. So that's where it helped me the most. Not the photo shoot. I loved it. She loved me. We got along great. It was a super fun experience. And you're right. I'm getting hit on by men as we're doing the photo shoot.
Yeah, right. Because your energy shifts. And I think that's another important thing I want people to listen to. Yes, your photos might look great. You might have a great iPhone, cinematic, whatever it is. But we really want to make sure that those photos convey the your soul, that your light comes through and that you're conveying the message about who you are that is on brand with your authenticity and your profile. And sometimes we misunderstand what's going to actually be the visual cue that's going to get the right guy. Because yes, guys are visual. So the visual cue we're giving them and then the profile is super, super, super important. So yeah, that was so fun. And we were like, I got hit on during my photo shoot and your photos came out so great. My favorite thing is I get photos back from my clients and I always have these reactions and my husband's always like, what? I'm like, look at this. I'm like, oh God, the great these are. Okay. So we went through the process. We launched you. Tell everyone so what does intentional dating mean to you and what does it look like now and how is it different?
It means to me that I am now going through this process with a goal, with working towards this goal, this desire that I want to fulfill. Where before I didn't, and a defined goal at that. I know what I want. I want a relationship. I want a long-term partner. I want us to be friends, and looking towards that goal, working towards that, not just going out to go out, meeting to meet, hang out, have friends, do whatever. So that is intentional to me, and doing it in with kindness and with authenticity, and it means so much more to me than how I was literally clueless before. So that's what it looks like to me.
What are you doing? So now that you're dating with intention, what are you doing differently?
Well, everything, the way I even respond, everything. I mean, from starting like the way I respond to their messages, the whole process of choosing to meet up with them. And then if it's not a fit, the way I respond back. So each one has been a lesson, and it's great. Besides, I would do 2 dates and be done. It's like I know. I mean, I felt bad. It wasn't a fit, and I don't like him, and now I feel bad, and everything always felt bad, and that is gone. I know I'm working towards a goal. I've defined it, and I've communicated it, and that's the best feeling. So just that process alone is completely different from how I did anything before.
And this is good because, people say, dating is hard, dating isn't fun, dating sucks, right? And I think you've really pointed out like it's yes, like you have to put yourself out there. Every guy isn't your guy. I think what you just talked about, this cumulative effect of like what it feels like when we're not being in integrity with ourselves, when we do ghost, when we avoid conversations, when we go on dates we really don't want to, when we push away people that are just really nice to us because we're not used to it. At an internal level, even if we don't name it or we can't express it, it just feels shitty, right? And so then dating, we make that mean that dating as a whole is hard or not fun. So when you start to clean up these internal pieces, the actual steps of dating, and I say this and people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, honestly, it's a numbers game, right? Like if you do this process, if you rinse and repeat, you keep it clean, you keep yourself going, you have resiliency. Ultimately, like I just got an email yesterday from someone who took this course a while back, like a year or two ago. And she was like, I met this guy a year ago where we just got engaged, right? Like it takes a minute, but it doesn't feel as heavy, hard as bad because you don't have all that lingering bull like from the process. So tell everyone what have your results been? What kind of guys are you meeting now? What's the longest you went out with someone? How did the breakup go? Tell us about
Well, I haven't done that because, I've only been out in there in like 2 months, but I've probably been on 15 dates plus it's a holiday and I'm talking to several. They've all been really nice, quality, available men, which is also different. No more of these creepy sex, just want to sexually or just whatever. I've had weird stuff, before. Or weird approaches to me. So none of that. It's all been really nice. And for me, the best part is learning to communicate the yes or the no. I've only been on one second date and then it didn't work out after that. He ended up kind of ghosting me. But, so that it's all, I'm like, oh, well, look at that. That's the first. So, but it all feels very positive to me. That is what is different because of the way I am using those tools. I don't feel discouraged, defeated. And I feel like you said, just keep doing what I'm doing. Not only, doing the online and dating, it helps me also in person when I'm meeting men in the world. Cause I was doing those same patterns in the world, which I just realized, oh my God, I don't have to be so serious about everything. Can I not just have fun and be friends first? Yeah, why was I so intense? It's like, I met you. It was not love at first sight. Done. You know what I mean? So I'm learning so much to be a little more patient, a little more gentle with myself and with these people I'm working with, which is a completely way of looking at it.
That's amazing. And I think that's a good point also. Like when you go through this process, even if online dating isn't your main way of meeting people, and I do recommend that you have a diversified dating portfolio, as my friend Kim Seltzer says, that you want to, that this does impact your in-person meetings, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So now what I hear you saying is you're more open, you're more patient, you are more inviting.
Yes, which I had none of that before. I mean, I thought I was, but I really wasn't. I would just shut down. And I'm not to say that I'm perfectly there yet, but I'm so much better, and it feels so much better than it's like having tools that I never had. I really had zero tools, to be honest. And, and like you said, what you don't learn this growing up. And I mean, I was married a long time, so I thought I knew it. I had these tools, but I didn't. That was probably, one of the reasons my marriage didn't work. I didn't know how to express a desire or even what I was desiring. So that's a lot of clarity too.
And that's an important thing, right? Like, for all those relationships that didn't work, we want to make sure that we're not making the assumption that it happened before, so it's going to happen again. Because once you do this work with me or someone else, you change, your identity changes. And so the old identity of Bernie was what? Like in January 2024, when we first started, what was that old dating identity? How did you define or see yourself?
I think I was shut down. I was out there, but I was not open or didn't know how. I didn't know. I wanted to be open, did not know how to do that. So the coaching, your coaching was, and I mean, even it was, like I said, it was a weekly step-by-step process. It wasn't like, overnight, but by the end, it did come together. Like there was a lot. It worked. It does work because I feel different, and it is different in the way I am showing up and the men that are showing up. So it did work. I'm like, it is working.
And that's so huge, right? Because people will be like, there's no good guys there. I'm like, you're just shopping at like Walmart, and you're hanging out in the Walmart parking lot, and you're driving by Walmart, and that's all you're seeing. Like, bless Walmart. You can get a great deal there, right? But like Walmart is great for certain things, but not for other things. And so by shifting your identity and then giving you the way to actually embody that and be that person is really different. So if you were going to say your identity now as a dater, how do you see yourself?
I see myself with completely wide open options, and that I get to choose who is going to be like the lucky winner. Not only that, for both of us, I think, for both, but I'm waiting. And so it's not like, not settling was maybe an excuse I used also for a long time, but I definitely feel different, open, and I have these choices, and I feel confident that I'm going to make the right choice and find the right person, where before I was like, I don't even know, and even if he showed up, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be so afraid. So it's a whole new level of confidence and optimism.
Oh my God. And are you having a little bit of fun?
I'm having a lot of fun, actually, because even when they're not fun, I mean, I'm going to great, meals, and it's not, I know before I used to think of it as work too. Oh, let me work and answer. It is, sometimes it feels that way, but it's completely different now. Maybe when I overwhelm myself with too many people I'm talking to. So I'm trying to tamper that down and be a little more selective and just stay intentional, not do too many at a time. But yeah, of course it's fun. I'm going to great places, and when it doesn't end weird, and you're able to communicate that, it's all good. It's all just learning. Everybody's fine.
I love it. Yeah. It's so funny. I talk to people about this program all the time, and I'm like, your biggest problem at the end is you're going to have like a lot of options. You're going to have to organize your time. You're going to have to make time for dates, and you're going to have to like kind of juggle the guys that want to be with you or date you that are all really good guys. People are like, really? So I'm glad that you're about.
That's exactly right. Yes. That's where I'm at. And so then it's like, I can feel nothing but hopeful. It's like, I'm in my comfort zone and pocket, but also in control of who I'm spending my time with. And it's also fun too.
Oh my gosh, love it. So if you were going, I always ask this question when I do these shows that are meant to be moments of inspiration. If someone were to like, hear your story, and if you would want to tell them, like, if I knew then what I know now, what would that be? Like, if you knew then when you were skeptical and shut down what you know, what would you?
I would have gotten the help and done this like 5 years ago. It would have saved a lot of time, because and yes, I am like a self-help spiritual junkie. I'm doing the courses, I do all the things, I do all the work. But in the dating place, I did not. I mean, I thought, let's fix all the other things and work on all the other stuff, the physical, the this, the that. Yeah, I would have done this sooner. When I knew then, I would have started this sooner and saved me all that time and energy. Yeah,
exactly. Less rewiring to do. And is there any other thing that you would say to any person who's listening to this? They're in their car, they're suffering from what I call terminal uniqueness. They're like, Bernie, I'm worse. Like, it's harder where I live, or I'm older, or I'm this. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I thought all those things, and I am older than most people, and that's not true. And I also thought I knew everything. I thought I knew a lot of how to do this, but literally do it, take the blinders off, swallow that pill, that it's not the rest of the world. And that maybe, I love your one thing, don't stay stuck in that cozy condo, because we all kind of get there. And so, yeah, do it. The sooner, the better. My opinion.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Well, I am so excited for you. I already had a flash vision where I'm getting the email from you being like, guess what?
Yeah.
And I love them. And they happen at least once a week. People come back over the years. And so I totally see that for you. I'm
thank you.
Thankful that you took your time to pay it forward and share your story. Ladies, so many ways to life check yourself in this episode. Perhaps re-listen, go through, are any of Bernie's old thoughts or old identity things that you relate to? Or are there some things you're doing in your dating that she's doing differently now that you could start to implement and shift on your own? And maybe you want to put some effort into your profile. Maybe it's time to go in and look at that and see, is the profile one-liner? Is it coming from like what you don't want? Or what do your photos look like? There's so many ways to get started in this adjustment of facing and looking at dating in a way that can be a choice, it can be an opportunity, it can be fun. Because I tell this to all my clients, because I've talked to a lot of the men that have become the partners and husbands of my clients. And they all say, thank you for making her findable to me, because I was looking for a really long time. And that guy, ladies, is looking for you. So make your neon sign, make your billboard, and make it easy. Make it easy for him to find you. Thanks for being here. You can follow me, Marnie Batista _ on Instagram. You can check out our brand new website, marniebatista.com, and take our new quiz, decodeyourdestinyquiz.com, and find out if your personality archetype is actually preventing you from living your dream life. So definitely check that out. And remember, it's your responsibility always to life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marniebatista.com/private coaching. That's Marnie, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marnie, and I'll see you next time.